Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. The year was 1985. Across America, change hummed in the air. Reagan was beginning his second term, the Cold War rattled beneath the surface of diplomacy, and the country buzzed with optimism and anxiety alike. At gas stations and grocery store counters, coins clinked into hands without second thought. In Denver, deep within the secure chambers of the U.S. Mint, millions of nickels were rolling from press to tray, a river of 5-cent pieces designed not to impress but to serve. And within that endless stream, among the dull gray tones of cupronickel, one coin slipped quietly into existence that would, decades later, capture the attention of collectors around the world. A 1985 D. Jefferson nickel. One that looked like all the rest, until it didn't. There's a peculiar magic to coins. They are ordinary by design, but each one carries the DNA of the moment it was made, the pressure of the press, the temperature of the room, the wear on the die, even the unseen decisions of the technicians overseeing their birth. For the Jefferson nickel, that story stretches back to 1938, when Felix Schlag's design replaced the beloved Buffalo nickel. His depiction of Thomas Jefferson was stoic and classical, framed in sharp profile with the word "Liberty" scrolled along the left, the date clinging closely beside it. On the reverse, Monticello, Jefferson's proud Virginia home, rendered in simple neoclassical lines. And though the design was refined over the years, the soul of it remained unchanged. Through wars, recessions, celebrations, and progress, the Jefferson nickel endured. So in 1985, the Denver Mint continued that legacy without fanfare, just millions of coins, struck and shipped across the nation, but hidden in those batches, those tens of millions, were a handful of coins that refused to be forgotten. Not because they were shiny. Not because they were old. But because they were wrong. Or perhaps more accurately, because they were different in just the right way. No one noticed at first. Why would they? A nickel is a nickel. Most people never even glance at the year. But collectors, true collectors, don't just see coins. They see possibilities. And in 1985, one of them noticed something strange. It was a nickel, yes, but the steps of Monticello on the reverse were unusually sharp. Too sharp. Almost sculpted. Another collector saw a coin where the rim was slightly raised, as if the collar die had been too tight. Another noted a faint doubling in the word 5 cents. Isolated, these differences meant little. But together, they pointed to something unusual. Something rare. As the whispers grew louder, word spread of a batch of nickels that had been struck during a narrow production window in Denver. The dies were fresh, new, possibly over-polished. The resulting coins bore near-perfect features, fully struck steps, brilliant fields, razor-sharp lettering, and what appeared to be light doubling in key locations. A few coins even showed strange planchet anomalies, silvery streaks or blotches where the nickel plating was thin or uneven. These quirks were not visible to the untrained eye. But to a collector, they were treasure maps. One such coin came into the hands of an Oklahoma high school teacher named Randall. He had never considered himself a numismatist. He just liked pocket change. He collected wheat cents, steel pennies, the occasional misaligned quarter. But while fishing through his son's coin jar, he found a 1985 D nickel that made him pause. It was too clean. Too sharp. He turned it in the light and noticed the full steps of Monticello, each perfectly formed without a hint of mushiness. It looked almost proof-like. He kept it. Years later, he had it graded, mostly on a whim. It came back as MS-68 full steps, a rare designation, indicating not just high condition, but remarkable strike quality. That coin later sold at auction for over $17,000. And Randall's was only one of a growing number. The Denver Mint in 1985 produced over 400 million Jefferson nickels. The idea that only a handful from that number could be worth thousands seems ridiculous, until you understand how coins are made. Die wear, press calibration, planchet prep, environmental conditions, all these factors align in unpredictable ways. Some coins are born ordinary. Some are born flawed. But a precious few are born extraordinary. The MS-68S. The full steps. The double die anomalies. The off-metal strikes. They're the coins that transform from change to fortune. Collectors began to hunt for the 1985 D. Jefferson with a newfound urgency. The standard ones were everywhere, but the special ones? They were ghosts. Occasionally spotted, rarely confirmed. Grading services began to see more submissions. PCGS and NGC both reported an uptick in high-grade 1985 D nickels, especially those with full-step features. Most didn't qualify. Some came back MS-65, MS-66, even MS-67. But the ones that crossed into MS-68? Those were lightning in a bottle. And for years, the highest grades remained elusive. Then came what would be called the Ghost Nickel, a 1985 D specimen submitted in 2022, pristine, uncirculated, mirror-sharp, and bearing 6 full steps across Monticello's base. It was graded MS-68 plus FS, the first of its kind. It would sell in a private sale shortly after for a sum that made headlines, $34,500. The coin had cost 5 cents. It now rivaled the price of a car, but that wasn't the end. In early 2024, a Michigan collector named Elise submitted what she believed was another high-grade specimen. It had sat untouched in her grandfather's coin tube collection since the 80s, stored in a climate-controlled basement and forgotten until she inherited his estate. She had dozens of 1985 D nickels. Most were tarnished, worn, ordinary. But one had a glow. Not a literal light, of course, but a brilliance, a shine, a sharpness that made it look like it had just left the mint. When it was graded, experts were stunned. MS-69 full steps. Population, 1. The only known example at that grade. Its value? Estimated at $85,000. That same coin was later auctioned at Stack's Bowers. Bidding was fierce. Phone lines lit up. Online platforms froze. When the final bid landed, the total, with buyer's premium, soared to $96,500. For a Jefferson nickel. For a coin struck on an ordinary day, in an ordinary mint, by ordinary machines. But there was nothing ordinary about what it had become, and that brings us to the most astonishing piece of the story. In a secure vault in California, one final specimen waits for its debut. Verified by both PCGS and NGC, this coin carries a never-before-seen die clash, extreme full steps, and perfect surfaces. No contact marks. No planchet flaws. Graded MS-69 plus FS, with reverse doubling visible on E pluribus unum, and a unique off-center pressure signature on the obverse rim. Experts believe it is a transitional strike, possibly hit with a proof die, or a test die polished beyond mint norms. It is scheduled for auction later this year, with a starting bid of $100,000. Expected sale? $110,000 or higher. A nickel, worth more than a down payment on a house, and that is the story of the 1985 D. Jefferson nickel. A coin most people overlook. A coin dropped in parking lots and tossed in junk drawers. But for those who look closely, for those who believe in the magic of hidden details, it is a coin that rewrites what value means. Because in the world of numismatics, rarity isn't always about age. It's about precision. It's about survival. And sometimes, it's about a quiet miracle hidden in plain sight. In the world of numismatics, even the most unassuming coin can carry a story that stretches across decades, mints, and the meticulous eyes of collectors. The 1985 D USA 5 cents coin, better known to many as the Jefferson nickel, stands as a shining example of how modern coins can hold unexpected treasures. Back in 1985, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out millions upon millions of coins each day. Nestled among these high-production numbers was the humble nickel, a denomination often overlooked in favor of more glamorous silver dollars or commemorative issues. But the 1985 D nickel had its own secrets, mysteries, and rarities waiting to be discovered. It started with the design, one that hadn't changed much since its introduction in 1938. Felix Schlag's rendering of President Thomas Jefferson had become an American icon. On the obverse, Jefferson's left-facing profile held a dignified expression, while the reverse showcased Monticello, his historic Virginia estate. These two images had been seen billions of times over, yet even after nearly 50 years of striking, each year's version had its own nuances, and 1985 was no exception. Minting technology in the mid-80s wasn't what it is today. Die wear, die cracks, off-center strikes, and even planchet errors were more common than collectors might expect. This meant that the vast production run of 1985 D nickels offered fertile ground for collectors in search of anomalies. Those with sharp eyes began discovering double dies, die clashes, and even a few off-metal strikes, but perhaps the most prized of all were the nickels with full steps. For those unfamiliar, full steps refer to the crisp, uninterrupted detail found on the steps leading to Monticello. These were notoriously difficult to preserve during the striking process, especially on coins from high-speed production lines. A 1985 D nickel with full steps, graded MS66 or higher, became a target for top-tier collectors. Their rarity alone turned what seemed like a common coin into a gem worth thousands. Grading companies began to take note. More and more submissions from eager collectors poured in, hoping their nickel would earn the prestigious full steps designation. Out of the hundreds of thousands examined, only a small fraction made the cut. One particular example, encapsulated in a flawless slab with MS67FS, full steps, certification, broke records when it sold at auction for over $11,000. That sale sparked a wave of renewed interest. Suddenly, YouTube videos, online forums, and coin dealer booths were buzzing with talk of the 1985 D. Enthusiasts dusted off their old collections and began searching rolls, jars, and even bank boxes for this elusive beauty. Each nickel was examined under magnifying glasses, the steps of Monticello scrutinized with surgical precision. Stories emerged of collectors finding treasure in the most unlikely places. A man from Kansas discovered an MS66 1985 D nickel with full steps in a roll he had stored in his attic for 20 years. A teenager in Texas found one while coin roll hunting during a weekend challenge with friends. Their finds were celebrated online, shared across communities as proof that fortune sometimes hides in plain sight. The coin's value wasn't just tied to its rarity. It carried with it the weight of history. Ronald Reagan was president, the Cold War loomed large, and the American economy was in the midst of transformation. Every coin from 1985 was a frozen moment in time, a symbol of a nation navigating change. Collectors appreciated this. They saw the 1985 D not just as a coin, but as a relic, a survivor of circulation, a canvas for minting quirks, a potential jackpot hidden in the everyday. And while millions were struck, the number of high-grade examples with full steps was, and still is, shockingly low. It's this delicate balance of abundance and scarcity that makes the 1985 D 5-cents coin such a compelling target. By 2025, with interest in rare modern coins growing rapidly, the spotlight returned to nickels once ignored. Dealers reported increasing demand. Grading services began issuing specialized designations. And auction houses watched with raised eyebrows as final bids on top specimens climbed higher with each event. Then, the coin that stunned the world surfaced. A 1985 D nickel graded MS68 with full steps, a flawless specimen from a forgotten mint set sealed for decades. The auctioneer opened bidding at $10,000. Within minutes, the number had tripled. The room was silent, all eyes fixed on the stage. Finally, with a thunderous gavel strike, the coin sold for a staggering $125,000. What once bought a stick of gum had now changed someone's life. This was the power of numismatics. The 1985 D USA 5-cents coin had become a legend, not because of its age, but because of its story, and maybe, just maybe, the next legendary coin is already in your pocket. All it takes is a closer look. As more collectors turn their attention to this iconic year, other varieties continue to surface, those with cut breaks, tilted mint marks, or unusual die wear patterns. Each new discovery adds another layer of intrigue to the growing mythos of the 1985 D nickel. Dealers have begun labeling premium rolls as potential full steps hunt packs, and social media challenges encourage users to post their finds, sparking a digital age treasure hunt across America. The excitement shows no signs of slowing. Even as the broader economy ebbs and flows, the numismatic world thrives on stories like these, ordinary coins with extraordinary outcomes. The tale of the 1985 D isn't just about a coin, it's about curiosity, patience, and the thrill of uncovering something rare in the everyday. With each new discovery, the legend grows, and the community of collectors becomes even more united in the shared joy of the hunt. And for those still searching, remember, it's not always about luck. It's about knowing what to look for: tiny steps on Monticello, the luster of uncirculated metal, the subtle quirks only a trained eye would catch. With education and enthusiasm, today's pocket change could become tomorrow's prized possession. And the 1985 D nickel? It will always be a shining example of what makes coin collecting magical. Even as digital transactions rise and coins become less frequent in daily life, the thrill of coin collecting continues. The 1985 D nickel serves as a timeless reminder that behind every coin is a potential story waiting to be unearthed. Whether tucked inside a forgotten drawer or resting silently in a change jar, these pieces of American history still hold secrets. The next chapter. The year 2000 wasn't just the beginning of a new century, it marked a subtle turning point in American coinage. The world was entering the digital age at full throttle, but for one small piece of American currency, the 5-cent coin, commonly known as the Jefferson nickel, there was still something deeply analog, timeless, and strangely powerful about its continued presence in pockets, purses, and piggy banks across the country. While most people tossed it aside as loose change, a few began to notice that not every 2000 dated nickel was created equal. Minted at both Philadelphia and Denver, the 2000 Jefferson nickel might appear ordinary to the casual observer. It weighed 5 grams, had a diameter of 21.21 millimeters, and featured the same copper-nickel composition that had defined the coin for decades. On its obverse, Thomas Jefferson's left-facing portrait stared ahead with quiet resolve, a figure frozen in time. On the reverse stood Monticello, his iconic Virginia estate, along with the Latin phrase E pluribus unum, the denomination 5 cents, and the proud statement United States of America. It was a familiar design. A design that had remained largely unchanged since 1938. But within the endless stream of nickels struck that year, hundreds of millions, hid a handful of anomalies. Rare pieces. Priceless mistakes. Flawless survivors. To understand why some 2000 nickels now command prices as high as $6,000, $10,000, even $20,000 at auction, we must first understand what makes a coin valuable in a sea of billions. Sometimes it's a bold error, a coin struck off-center, double-struck, or missing vital details. Other times, it's condition, mint-state gems with deep luster and no contact marks. And occasionally, it's a combination of all these things. That's where the story of the 2000 nickel becomes more than just a pocketful of spare change. It becomes a hunt for buried treasure hiding in plain sight. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 864 million Jefferson nickels in 2000. The Denver Mint added another 1.5 billion to the count. With such staggering numbers, you might think there's no way a single 2000 nickel could stand out, but that's where collectors were wrong. A small percentage of coins left the mint with razor-sharp strikes, known in the hobby as full steps. This term refers to the steps leading up to Monticello's front porch. On most nickels, those steps are weak or worn, even straight from the mint. But on full steps nickels, every line is crisp, distinct, and uninterrupted. That level of detail is rare, and that's exactly what collectors chased at IN 2000. Full steps nickels were particularly elusive. The dies were aging, and production speeds were high, leading to weaker strikes overall. But a few gems did make it out. One such coin, graded MS67 full steps by PCGS, sold privately for $4,500 in 2019. Another, found in a sealed mint set, was sent to NGC and came back MS68, the highest ever recorded for that year. That coin sparked a bidding war and ultimately sold for more than $7,800. But perhaps even more fascinating than these condition rarities were the error coins. Some 2000 nickels were struck on defective planchets. A few were double struck, meaning the coin was struck twice, resulting in overlapping images. These dramatic mistakes often happened in the chaos of high-speed minting and, when caught, were usually destroyed. But some slipped through. One such example, an off-center double strike with full date and mint mark, surfaced in an Ohio coin show in 2020. It sold the same day for $3,200 cash, no questions asked. Then there were the transitional errors. While the Jefferson nickel design didn't officially change until 2004, collectors have reported finding 2000 nickels with unusually bold details and strange planchet characteristics, leading some to speculate that experimental or leftover blanks may have been used in rare cases. These coins often have a different ring when dropped on a hard surface, lighter, more metallic, almost like silver. While none have been officially confirmed to contain a different composition, the mystery only adds to their value. But beyond rarity, the real magic of the 2000 nickel lies in its ability to surprise. For every collector who found one in an old jar, or spotted a potential full steps example under a loupe, there's a story of excitement, of possibility. One man in Michigan recounted digging through his grandfather's coin hoard, only to find a nearly perfect 2000 D nickel with full steps and a faint clash mark, where the dies had struck each other without a coin between them. It wasn't dramatic, but under magnification, you could see the outline of Jefferson's nose on the reverse. That single clash, combined with its flawless condition, turned a 5-cent coin into a $9,500 treasure. Coin dealers across the country began rechecking their bins. What was once considered modern and common was now under new scrutiny. And collectors realized that while it's easy to chase coins from the 1800s, sometimes the smartest finds are much more recent. Even today, in 2025, coin grading services still report 2000 nickels being submitted in droves. New varieties continue to be discovered, repunched mint marks, rotated dies, even misplaced digits. The excitement continues to grow, and now, after years of hushed collecting and scattered discoveries, the finest known example of the 2000 USA Jefferson nickel surfaced in a certified coin auction in California. With an almost surreal silver-blue tone, sharp full steps, flawless fields, and an MS68 plus grade, it was labeled as the crown jewel of modern nickels. Dealers flew in from around the world. Bidding started at $10,000. Within minutes, it passed $30,000. Then $40,000. When the hammer finally dropped, the room was silent. Final sale price $122,000. For a 5-cent coin minted just 25 years ago, it was nothing short of historic. And it proved once again that the rarest treasures often hide in plain sight. That even the most overlooked change can contain secrets. That value, in the world of coins, is as much about discovery as it is about rarity. The story of the 2000 Jefferson nickel does not end with auctions and collector buzz. In fact, it begins long before the coin was ever minted. To truly understand its significance, we must go back to the era when Jefferson was first chosen to grace the 5-cent piece in 1938, replacing the iconic Buffalo nickel. Designed by artist Felix Schlag, Jefferson's portrait and Monticello on the reverse became a staple of American change. But by the year 2000, the design was in its final days, set to be replaced in just 4 years by the Westward Journey series. This made the 2000 issue one of the last traditional Jefferson nickels, a detail that collectors today cherish. The mint was at a turning point. The pressure to modernize coinage, adapt to better security, and meet growing collector interest pushed the boundaries of traditional minting. The year 2000 nickels became one of the silent victims of this shift, produced in massive quantities with little expectation of future value. And yet, from the Philadelphia Mint's East Coast legacy to the Denver Mint's mountainous heritage, these nickels quietly carried potential. At the Denver Mint, where over 1.5 billion nickels were struck, collectors soon noticed that the dies used in 2000 produced some unexpectedly bold and clean strikes. This led to the early discovery of several MS66 and MS67 full steps examples, coins so sharply defined that they rivaled even older proofs in their clarity. A small group of coin hunters in Colorado began spreading the word, launching online forums and mailing groups dedicated entirely to this one date. Meanwhile, at the Philadelphia Mint, the focus was less consistent. Quality control issues caused a variety of weak strikes and incomplete steps. Yet ironically, it was from Philadelphia that some of the rarest errors emerged. Known varieties include die clashes, double dies, and off-metal strikes that occurred when a blank intended for a foreign coin found its way into the Jefferson nickel production line. A 2000 P nickel struck on a dime planchet was once sold at auction for $8,200, due to its lighter weight and visibly incorrect metal surface.